and Benz in the booth. Scrolling clips for the truth. Pause it, run it back. What hits, what bends, what cracks. Clips with bands, we chase the truth, then we send our lands. Unite the divided, that's the line we live. Me and Benz on watch, got feedback to give.
Hey again, folks. Here for another episode of Clips with Benz. He's been pretty sleepy this morning, so the cat's been in here trying to rile him up, and he hasn't jumped around or got out. There's no real sunshine this morning, so he's not probably going to jump off for a while. He's just taking a little nap. So, we're going to have a stretch. Okay, he's doing a little stretch. That's fine. So, welcome to the podcast today. We are going to talk about flock cameras and what is coming, what is here, and more importantly, the conversations that we are not having as a society, as a local community. Several months ago, I had current sheriff of Vanderbilt County, Noah Robinson, onto the podcast, and we talked about a bunch of different things, but flock did come up in that conversation. And I wanted to, during that conversation, I asked him, after he also had some concerns about what flock may do in the future, or that type of surveillance style technology like we see in many large cities and even in countries like China. Countries like China and even other countries around the world use these technologies to track and censor people and to, basically punish them for certain behaviors. And obviously there's all the people in the United States that will say, that'll never happen here. We're different. This is the U.S. We have the Constitution. We have protections. And that all sounds fine and dandy, but going back not too long ago to the Patriot Act and the reason it was brought in and what it has done since has evolved beyond what I consider to be the original scope of it and what we were sold. And as we know with technology is rapidly advancing. We have AIs that are basically outcompeting many other very high-level technical people and coders. And again, these systems are built mostly with foreign technology, and they are all hackable. I got a couple clips that I'm going to share today. Before I do that, I want to lead in with a article that I was forwarded. I actually had a couple people forward this article from The Drive, and I guess I can, rather than pulling it up, I'll just basically read a little bit. Basically, it says, license plate cameras will soon track phones, wearables, infotainment, and even your pets. It says the new kind of license plate reading camera will scrape smart devices you take with you and wrap all that data into a nice little bow for law enforcement and the government. It says if data brokers can track the device you take with you, they know where you live, where you go, and what you do. This is a very long article. Well, not a super long article. It goes on for a little bit. It's actually not that long at all. I put it into Grok, and it is basically been fact checked, and it is accurate. And I think what alarms me most about it is we're sold the bill of goods that flock can only be used in limited instances, and it obviously has a lot of good things that it has done in our community and in other communities. So I'm not here basically to argue that those things aren't good, and tracking down violent criminals and or something that me and Travis talk about a lot is, what if my child gets taken and we could use technology to find her rapidly. And so it's hard to argue those things. And I obviously wouldn't argue that we should be able to find our children who are taken as fast as possible. That kind of overlaps with the conversation that we had yesterday on the clips with Benz. However, it does bring to the table the fact that creeping technology and surveillance is a real risk for freedom and for privacy. And so I'm going to share just a couple clips here, and we're going to listen to this first one. I think is pretty short, only a couple minutes, and hear what she has to say, just because I don't think most people are really engaged in this conversation locally, and I'm having a difficult time thus far getting Sheriff Robinson back on the podcast to talk about it, even though I've invited him a couple times. So hopefully he gets this message and agrees to come back on, because I think he has valid points. He also has an insider track to what the technology is currently doing, and he did agree with me about the potential for bad actors in the future who are not him, or future politicians or even hackers, being able to infiltrate the systems that we use out of the quote unquote safety of our community. So let's listen to this clip real quick, and we will go from there.
Have Americans finally had it with this mass surveillance system? That is a Flock safety camera. It's an artificial intelligence automated license plate reader. I've reported on Flock before, and if there's one thing people in the comments can agree on, it's their hatred of this. That's because at least 90,000 Flock cameras across 6,000 communities read over 20 billion plates per month. All that information then gets uploaded into a giant shared database, which can be accessed by law enforcement and government agencies. And no surprise, this raises a slew of issues. Like one Ohio man pulled over accused of stolen plates, attacked by police dogs, and jailed because Flock read the 7 on his plates as a 2. Or the Colorado woman accused of stealing a package and treated as guilty until proven innocent because Flock caught her driving 20 times in 1 month. Then there's the Arkansas couple that had a Flock camera pointed right at their house, putting them and their guests under constant warrantless surveillance. And not to perpetuate stereotypes, but multiple cops and police chiefs have accessed Flock hundreds of times to stalk their exes and current partners. But don't worry, you can stalk people too, because Flock cameras are hackable in under 30 seconds. They can be turned into a personal spy device, run on an Android operating system discontinued in 2021, and didn't even have two-factor authentication until it recently came out that they didn't. YouTuber Ben Jordan even found 51 vulnerabilities with Flock and said accessing them is so easy, 12-year-olds could do it. We don't condone the destruction of Flock cameras, but we're also not surprised the public has reached their boiling point. One Virginia man now faces 19 felonies and 6 misdemeanors for destroying 13 cameras over 6 months. In Michigan, police used Flock to catch this guy who caused about 10 grand in damage to cameras. And Oregon vandals / patriots, depending who you ask, cut down 9 Flock cameras, leaving some with colorfully worded stickers. Flock cameras in California, Connecticut, and Illinois have also been destroyed. So, did Americans take notes from Britain's Blade Runners? Have Americans finally had it with this mass surveillance system?
Okay.
That is a Flock safety camera.
Sorry about that overlap. So I think she hit on several really good points, and not to belabor any of them, but our current system has been used by some bad actors already. And there have been police chiefs. I fact-checked the fact there has been people that have hacked in and used these cameras to surveil and spy on people that they know, people that they don't trust or whatever. But that really begs the question of, how do we hold people accountable and responsible to that? And that's one of the things that came up in another message that I've got going on with another couple groups about, putting something into the court system to effectively hold accountable the people that are trying to hold us accountable from the security side of things. And, we've already had so many instances and cases where people have been caught doing these things, and nothing really ever changes. And ultimately, as these systems progress and get more and more advanced, and we get more and more cameras in our portable devices, which basically track our every movement and every word, already these things connecting together in the future will basically mean we are all being spied on and we have no choice about it. So, I mean, to me, part of it is I understand the safety aspects of it, meaning a bad actor or a mass murderer is out on the streets or a kidnapper of a kid, and we can track them down fast. Yes, I get that. But what does it mean if this technology gets in the hands of the next authoritarian leader? And we already know that the federal government can dip into these cameras and use them whenever they see fit. And I just think it's a slippery slope that we need to be having conversations. I'm not going to go full on against them. I do not condone some of the actions that the gal in the first clip was spotlighting. I don't think people should be going out and being vandals. Obviously, if something is spying on you on your own premises, or even if you have a neighbor that's creeping through a window or something, yeah, I think you need to do something about that, obviously. But we already know that kind of stuff is happening. I mean, what's to stop people from having a camera on you right now? How would you even know? I think that's another conversation that we need to have. Like, how can we find out when we are being surveilled? I think we have a right to know that. And if there's not a warrant saying I'm under investigation for something, then I have a right to privacy, and so do you. So without further ado, we did end up losing Benzie, so I'm going to go to a different view next time I come back. I've got another clip here that I want to share with you, and this is kind of giving props to a investigative reporter group out of Atlanta. Atlanta News First is where this clip comes from. I don't know how much of it I'm going to listen to. It's pretty long, and I've only listened to really the first few minutes of it. And because a lot of times I want to react to these things kind of in real time and have hopefully future discussions with people that agree to come in and sit down on the podcast and listen to these clips and talk through these things. I really think we need to be having a full civic debate about should our communities allow this, and we should be listening to people that have a real problem with it. So without further ado, let's listen to some of this clip, then we'll come back and talk about it.
A popular police surveillance tool used to catch violent criminals can now also be used to track innocent people. And it begs the question, who's watching the watchers? Welcome to Behind the Investigation on Atlanta News First Investigates. I'm investigative reporter Andy Perotti. Joining me now is Chief Investigative Reporter Brendan Keefe. Brendan, this is a really fascinating series that you've been doing that I think a lot of people have been talking about. I know I've been reading about it online. Bring us up to speed on this part of the investigation.
Well, first, it has to be said that this technology is incredibly powerful. It's incredibly powerful to catch suspects and to convict criminals of crimes. It's used every single day, and it's so powerful, it's actually changing the way policing is conducted. It is allowing investigators to generate leads and then to follow up on those leads to quite literally catch rapists, murderers, and then to convict these suspects of those crimes. But it's powerful in anyone's hands. It's powerful in the hands of a good cop, and it's powerful in the hands of a bad cop. And this isn't hypothetical. They're getting arrested virtually every week. There's a new case where they're using it to stalk their exes or a love interest, and even going back in time to track their movements using their official police login to this database.
Flock safety cameras continue to pop up around town
to ensure that car thieves and violent criminals have almost no chance to escape. They've been helping catch suspects quickly.
We're just trying to keep you safe.
Flock cameras have revolutionized local law enforcement.
The system has helped them arrest violent offenders and recover stolen cars.
An advantage they say is priceless.
Just help them get a dangerous man off the street. They tracked his car down using flock cameras.
The cameras take a picture of every car that drives by.
The cameras are designed to catch criminals, but they also create a searchable database of every car that passes.
All day it's just reading tags.
They're continuously recording.
It's just a tool to help us catch criminals. We're going to catch everyone.
We have cameras everywhere in that town. You can't get a breath of fresh air in or out without us knowing.
Chrisana Elzer learned the power of Flock firsthand.
You were in town from 11:52 until 12:09. Exactly. Like I said, Nothing in or out of the town without us knowing.
When a Colorado police officer showed up at her door holding flock snapshots of her truck.
And here's when you left at 12:09. That's when you left town.
To get?
No, to stop at Ridge Trail.
Wait a minute.
And take a package. Well, there's no shushing. I don't need to be.
Yes, there is. I need to know where this is.
The first thing he pulled out.
Wow. I hadn't even gotten to that part of the clip and seen that story. But I would really like some feedback on hearing other law enforcement officers and what they have to say about what just happened at that lady's door and what this officer brought to her door, basically accusing her or something right there on the spot. I mean, I don't know how I would handle that, first and foremost. Secondly, it just doesn't seem right to me. Let's keep going.
On the body cam is that flock picture, the clear photograph of your car.
But here's your vehicle in the neighborhood many, many times, apparently casing houses, because you just can't drive through for work or visit other businesses. You can only be casing houses.
It is her. It is 100%. It is locked in. There is zero doubt. I wouldn't have come here unless I was 100% sure. 100%. It is certain. It is on video. You're obviously welcome to go to court.
Chrisana was charged with stealing a package, but it wasn't her. The porch pirate was somebody else. Multiple times you tried.
So again, she was wrongly accused. She was dragged into court, probably had to get an attorney. If she couldn't afford one would be provided to her. But think of the harm of the accusation, and think of yourself or your 16-year-old kid or 20-year-old kid being accused of something and it turned out being completely false. So basically disrupting your life, having people thinking that you're a criminal for some period of time. And as with most of these things, as you know, a case comes down or someone gets accused or charged of something, which turns out to not be right sometimes, not very often, but most times when people are charged, they are guilty of something, but not always. But that disrupts and changes their life forever. And so, I think we have to think about that when we're considering more and more of this technology.
Tried to show him your video evidence. He didn't want to see it.
No, even when I called him back, he said, that's not my job.
You looked at a time of a crime. You saw my vehicle entering in the flock camera.
No, what I did was, I did an investigation.
You called my wife a liar. You saying this is fact.
I have video evidence. I don't know what you want me to say.
The charges were dropped after Chrisana spent weeks trying to get the police chief to look at her evidence. Time-stamped video from her truck and a neighbor's doorbell camera showing she wasn't at the scene of the crime. What does it say about where we are that you feel you have to have more cameras than the police have in order to make sure you can prove yourself innocent?
It sounds like it flipped the script to you're guilty until you prove yourself innocent.
Without a flock camera, that detective would not have been at her door. By his own admission, he pulled out the flock picture of her car. Do you want to apologize to Chrisana Elzer for what happened to her?
For the police misusing the tools? I don't think that I have to apologize for him.
He wasn't charged with a crime. He wasn't, other than being reprimanded for his attitude.
Sure. No, but I would tell you that, should I apologize for somebody misusing a tool?
Okay, so this, if you're not watching, this seems to be a flock representative. Flock is the system that we use, our law enforcement is using locally. And again, I haven't heard this part of the clip, so we're going to hear this for the first time together. And I just want to kind of get my own natural gut reaction to what I'm hearing. The first thing that I heard from him is kind of creepy. And it's not my responsible that I've given somebody a tool and they've misused that tool. Okay, I can completely understand that. We talk about that with the Second Amendment, and anytime someone talks about a firearm being used, is it the person that made the firearm or sold a firearm legally? Is it their responsibility or their fault that weapon was used to do harm or to do something other than that's illegal? I think that's a slippery slope argument that never ends up being yes, it's on the tool maker's fault. So let's keep listening to what this guy has to say.
I don't think so.
Flock Safety Chief Communications Officer Josh Thomas. Who's watching the watchers in these cases?
Well, the city council, the city.
Okay, here we go. Now we're getting into the meat of kind of where this was the conversation, that basically the question that arose this morning in my conversation online with some friends and some a think tank that I've got going on. So let's listen.
He owns the data, so city council would have the appropriate responsibility in that case. Our point of view has always been that it is not Flock's job to police the way police do their work.
Flock license.
Okay, without getting too deep into it here, this will overlap with what I said earlier. So, what if you are a political advocate or a critical of local lawmakers or officials? Here in Evansville, I think we have 9 representatives on the city council. All of them are Democrats. I think one might be a light Republican. I've heard skepticism on that, but I guess the moral of the story is we already know that government and politicians do misuse technology and information, and there are cases of spying and using law enforcement inappropriately at all levels because of someone being a political enemy or someone that's critical of a person in power. So I think this is a very a conversation that I'm not pointing at anyone on the local city council right now. This is a future conversation. Like, okay, so what if we get, instead of all Democrats on a city council, we end up getting all Republicans, and all Republicans or whatever party they are doesn't like a particular group of people or a person. And so are they really going to be neutral and watching the watchers in those instances? I don't know. How can we really trust anyone at that level? I guess it would be my question. Let's listen.
License plate readers don't just scan tags looking for stolen cars or vehicles on a hot list. The cameras take a photo of every car that passes, stamped with the precise time and location. The more cameras you pass, the clearer the picture of your movements. All of that data is saved in a database for 30 days, shared with connected police departments, allowing the government to go back in time to see where your car was and when. No warrant required, whether you're suspected of a crime or not.
Why not just do hot list alerts? It's because the investigative value here is immense. Otherwise, you're going back to the old way of policing, which is an eyewitness saw something. They're going to call in and report it. And a police officer has to go stop every yellow Jeep that looked like that, or every person who's described a certain way. Instead, with an LPR, you can actually find the objective data you need. It's the new way of policing, which is precise.
So I guess just here, here's the slippery slope argument. Again, I caught that guy, not very attractive. His face is not looking real good right now. Anyway, trying to bring some light into this pretty strong topic, I guess. Who's watching the watchers, I think, is the conversation that is not being had at the local level. And I don't think I'm going to share any more of this podcast or this clip. We're only almost 6 minutes into it. It is 25 minutes. I probably could go on and let you or force you to listen to the whole thing. I will share the link to this Atlanta News First. It's a YouTube video for anyone interested in listening to the rest of it. And what I'm going to do is do a part 2 of this podcast, because again, I think we're going right now, however many minutes. We're 23 minutes in. I made a promise to try to keep these things short, but I do want people to get engaged in this conversation, talking about important things that seem like they're safe and seem like we're doing them for the right reasons. But I think that we need this conversation now. Just like AI technology and all the things that are happening with the advancements of that and how it's going to disrupt our communities, we are not having that conversation. So I imagine the next clip that I do will be something in regards to AI, trying to force that conversation now. And with that said, I appreciate all of you again who are first-time listeners or who follow. You can support us in many ways. I want people engaging, so if you want to engage in the conversation, please reach out to me. If you can help monetarily, we obviously are trying to expand our efforts. We have a new podcast studio down near Bossy Field, and we're trying to get new programs there, and happy to do that. But we do need some finances to make those things happen because, as it turns out, nobody really wants to work for free. Anyway, sending love to you all. Really appreciate it, and we'll see you again on the flip side. Just sorry Ben's left us. He's over looking out the window now and trying to, I think he might be trying to surveil a local animal in the neighborhood. Is there a squirrel out there, Benz? You see a squirrel? Yeah, he doesn't want to talk. Sending love. Take care, y'all.